Isn't it strange that we spend so much of our lives running from discomfort, yet the very moments that tear us apart are often the ones that shape us most? Think about where you are right now. Maybe you just finished another exhausting day, sitting in your car with the weight of silence pressing down. Maybe you're lie awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything fell apart so fast. Or maybe you've simply grown tired of pretending you're fine when you're not. Tired of holding up a mask that feels heavier with each passing day. We are taught to see these dark hours as proof that life is against us, but the ancient Stoics recognized something deeper. Our deepest wounds are often our greatest instructors. The very events we want most to escape are the ones capable of revealing our strength. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who buried children and endured betrayal, once wrote, "The mind that pursues the good, whether it succeeds or not, is honored by the very pursuit." He didn't write those words to impress others. He wrote them to remind himself that even in heartbreak, even in defeat, there is dignity in continuing to seek what is right. You may not realize it yet, but the fact that you are still here, still breathing after every hard day that tried to break you, that is extraordinary. You've survived 100% of your worst nights, and that survival is not small. It's proof that you carry more strength than you believe. And yet we live in a culture that tells us to dodge discomfort at all costs. Swipe past anything that hurts. Buy something to numb the ache. Distract yourself until the feelings fade. But what if the very pain you're running from is the doorway to the person you were always meant to become? The Stoics had no phones to scroll, no endless entertainment to drown their sorrow. When Marcus buried his children, when Epictetus endured slavery, when Seneca faced exile and eventually execution, they had no escape. They sat with reality. And in that stillness, they discovered what we've forgotten. Pain is not an enemy. Struggle is not weakness. And what breaks you may also open you. Someone watching this right now is carrying a secret battle. Someone is mourning a loss that changed everything. Someone is facing a fear that feels larger than their courage. And to you I say, you can endure. Not because you're superhuman, but because you are human. This is not another speech telling you to think positive or to ignore your challenges. This is about learning to move with them, to find meaning in the chaos, to see that what is breaking your heart might actually be breaking it open, making room for wisdom, compassion, and strength you never knew you had. In this video, I will share with you 7 brutal Stoic truths. They may sting, they may even bring tears, but they carry the power to set you free. Do not skip ahead. Every truth builds on the last, and by the end, I will share with you the simple 3-word decision that changed everything for me, and might just change everything for you. But first, let's begin with the first Stoic truth. Truth number 1, the treasure hidden in your hardest day. Let me take you back to a single day that shattered everything I thought I knew about myself. It wasn't dramatic at first. It started like any other Tuesday. I woke up, had my coffee, answered emails, believed it would be another ordinary chapter in the story of my life. But by nightfall, the ground I thought was solid had vanished. My plans, my relationships, my future, all of it seemed to collapse in a single wave. If you've ever had that experience, you know the feeling. It's like standing on a floor that suddenly disappears, leaving you free fall with nothing to grab onto. That night, I sat alone in my car and cried in a way I hadn't since childhood. Not the polite kind of tears you see in movies, but the raw, guttural sobs that leave your chest aching. And in the middle of that unraveling, I asked the question we all ask, why is this happening to me? At first, no answer came, just silence. But then another question slipped into my mind, so subtle I almost missed it. What is this trying to teach me? That shift in perspective changed everything. The pain didn't vanish. The fear didn't evaporate. But suddenly, I was no longer a victim of my situation. I was a student of it. The suffering itself became a classroom. And that's exactly what the Stoics taught centuries ago. Epictetus, who lived as a slave and endured both poverty and cruelty, wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He wasn't speaking from comfort. He was speaking from the depths of loss and limitation. He knew firsthand that when the external world is stripped away, what remains is the essence of who you truly are. Here's the brutal Stoic truth. Your hardest day does not define you, it reveals you. It strips away illusions, exposing the strength that remains when everything else is gone. Think of the people you admire most, the stories that inspire you. They all share something in common. Each of them faced moments when everything seemed to collapse. And in those moments, they made the choice you have the opportunity to make right now, to let the breaking become a breaking open. At first, the treasure inside your hardest day won't be obvious. It comes wrapped in confusion, bound by grief, delivered at the worst possible time. But within that package lies the very endurance, compassion, and wisdom you will need for challenges you can't yet see. Pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to refine you. It burns away what was never truly yours, until only your authentic self remains. So here's your practice. Take 5 minutes tonight and write down 3 things: what you lost, what still remains, and what you can control in the next 10 minutes of your life. That simple act transforms chaos into clarity. It reminds you that while you may not control the storm, you control how you sail through it. Your hardest day is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a richer chapter. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger, wiser, and more alive. This is the first treasure of Stoicism. The day that breaks you is also the day that introduces you to your truest self. And if you can hold on to that, you're ready for the second truth. One that might surprise you, because it challenges what the world has always told you about your feelings. Truth number 2, the hidden strength in feeling deeply. At some point in your life, someone has probably told you that you feel too much. Maybe they said you're too sensitive, too emotional, too intense. Sometimes those words were delivered gently, almost like concern. Other times they were sharp, meant to shame you into hardening your heart. Either way, the message was the same. The world thinks there's something wrong with experiencing life so deeply. And so, slowly you started to hide it. You learned to mask your tears, to silence your excitement, to put away the rawness of your heart. But here's the truth the Stoics knew and we've forgotten. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a form of strength, a rare gift in a culture that rewards attachment. Think about Seneca. We imagine Stoic philosophers as stone-faced statues who never flinched. But Seneca wrote letters to a close friend that were so vulnerable, so emotionally raw, that 2,000 years later, they still move readers to tears. In one, he wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." That line was not born from cold logic. It was born out of heartbreak, loss, and the grief of someone who allowed himself to feel fully. The Stoics were not trying to erase their emotions. They weren't telling themselves to suppress tears or deny pain. They practiced something more radical, to feel everything without being consumed by it. There is a vast difference between drowning in your emotions and learning to swim in them. Your sensitivity is the reason you notice when something is wrong before anyone else does. It's why beauty can bring you to tears. It's why another person's pain can feel like your own. That isn't weakness. That's insight. That's empathy in motion. The world desperately needs people who can feel deeply, because caring is what fuels change. Without those who feel, injustice goes unnoticed. Suffering remains hidden. Beauty goes uncelebrated. And I want you to think about this. Your emotions are not random accidents. They are signals. They are your inner navigation system pointing you toward truth. That unease you feel in a relationship, it isn't paranoia, it's perception, catching what logic hasn't yet processed. That excitement about a path everyone else dismisses, that's your intuition recognizing a possibility invisible to them. So here's the brutal Stoic truth. Your tears are not evidence of weakness. They are proof that you're alive. Your ability to feel deeply is not something to apologize for. It's your greatest source of power. The question is not whether you feel too much. The question is whether you allow those feelings to guide you without controlling you. Try this practice. The next time you're overwhelmed, pause and give your emotion a name. Say to yourself, "I'm feeling grief," or "I am feeling fear." Naming it pulls it out of the shadows. Then take 3 deep breaths. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4. That small act reminds you, I can hold this. I don't have to run from it. Your sensitivity fuels your creativity, your love, your ability to heal, inspire, and connect. The world has enough people walking through life numb. It needs people like you, people who are willing to feel. And when you embrace that truth, you unlock a strength that no amount of armor could ever provide. Now that you know your emotions are not your enemy, you're ready for the third Stoic truth. One that asks, what happens when you lose everything you thought you couldn't live without? Truth number 3, how losing it all can lead you back to yourself. There comes a moment in every life when something you swore you couldn't live without is taken away. Sometimes it's sudden. A job gone overnight, a relationship that ends with a single conversation, a dream that collapses in front of your eyes. Other times it happens so slowly you barely notice, until one morning you wake up and realize your old life has faded piece by piece, and the person staring back at you in the mirror feels like a stranger. If you've been there, or if you're there right now, you know the terror of believing you're falling apart. But here's the Stoic truth. You are not falling apart. You are falling into place. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most. He endured betrayal, political upheaval, even the death of his own children, and yet he wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Easy words to read, far harder to live. But Marcus didn't write them from a throne of comfort. He wrote them as a grieving father, as a weary leader, as a man who had to look at loss not as punishment, but as transformation. I remember the day I lost what I thought was my entire identity. The career I had invested years into suddenly ended. The relationship I believed would last forever dissolved. The future I assumed was guaranteed vanished. I sat in an empty apartment surrounded by boxes, staring at walls that once felt like home and now only reminded me of what was gone. For a while, I thought that was it, that my life had ended in every way that mattered. But no one tells you the secret about hitting rock bottom. It's solid, and you can rebuild on it. When everything external is stripped away, what remains is what is unshakably yours. The roles, the titles, the possessions, those were never truly you. The real you is the one who survives without them. The brutal Stoic truth is that losing everything is not the end. It is an introduction, a meeting with the person you've always been beneath the costumes of status and expectation. Think of a tree in winter. To the outside world, it looks lifeless, bare branches against a gray sky. But beneath the surface, deep in its roots, life is gathering, preparing for spring. That's what loss does to us. It feels like emptiness, but beneath it, strength is forming. Roots are reaching deeper. You are preparing for a version of yourself you cannot yet imagine. So here's your practice. If you feel like everything is gone, take a blank page and divide it in two. On one side, write what you've lost. On the other, write what no one and nothing can take from you. Your values, your ability to choose, your capacity to love, your will to act. That list on the right is who you truly are. That is the ground you can rebuild on. Loss is not proof you're broken. It's proof you're being redirected. It clears space for something truer, something that fits who you're becoming, not who you used to be. And once you see that, you'll begin to understand the next Stoic truth. Sometimes, the dreams that don't come true are the ones that save your life. Truth number 4, the unexpected gift in dreams that don't come true. Some of you listening right now are grieving a dream that never became reality. Maybe it was a business you poured your soul into that collapsed. Maybe it was a relationship you thought would last a lifetime, but ended before you were ready. Maybe it was a career you gave everything to, only to watch it slip through your fingers. Or maybe it was a future you pictured so clearly that when it didn't unfold, you felt like the universe had betrayed you. When those dreams die, it feels like failure. It feels like proof that we weren't enough. And yet, here is the Stoic truth. Your broken dreams are not failures. They are redirections towards something far more aligned with who you truly are. Epictetus taught a lesson that sounds simple but is one of the hardest to live. Do not demand that events happen as you wish. Wish that they happen as they do. He wasn't telling us to stop dreaming or to give up. He was showing us that our attachment to one specific outcome often blinds us to greater opportunities waiting in disguise. We chase what we think we need, but life has a way of showing us what we actually need. I know this from experience. Years ago, I had a dream I believed was my destiny. I gave it everything, time, energy, health, even my relationships. For years, I sacrificed balance in pursuit of that one vision. And then, in a single blow, it collapsed. For weeks I walked around convinced I had wasted years of my life. Anger consumed me. Anger at myself, at fate, at anyone who seemed to be succeeding while I was stuck in ashes. But slowly, I realized something extraordinary. That dream had not been wasted. It had been preparation. The skills I learned, the resilience I built, the people I met along the way, they became the foundation for a path I never would have seen if my original dream had survived. The failure was not a dead end. It was a detour. Here's the brutal Stoic truth. Sometimes the dreams you cling to most fiercely are actually too small for you. They're not failures. They're stepping stones. They break open the ground so that better, truer dreams can take root. Think of a river meeting a boulder. It doesn't stop flowing. It shifts, carving a new path that often ends up more beautiful than the one before. So here's your practice. Write down one dream that didn't work out the way you wanted. Then, beneath it, list 3 things it gave you anyway. Skills, lessons, connections, pieces of yourself you wouldn't have discovered otherwise. Those gifts are not wasted. They're the raw material for what comes next. Your broken dreams are not proof that you are incapable. They are proof that you are being guided towards something you couldn't have imagined before. And once you begin to see broken dreams as hidden gifts, you're ready for the next Stoic truth, one that reveals a strange holiness hidden inside your hardest battles. Truth number 5, the holiness hidden in your hardest battles. We live in a culture that treats struggle like an infection, something to get rid of as quickly as possible. Pop a pill, repeat a mantra, distract yourself until the pain fades. But what if the very thing you've been desperate to escape is not a flaw in life's design, but the feature that makes it meaningful? The Stoics carried a phrase that can change how you see every hardship. Amor fati, to love your fate. Not just to accept it, not simply to endure it, but to embrace it as though it were chosen for you. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. I remember sitting with a close friend as she tried to hold herself together during a divorce after 20 years of marriage. Every time the tears came, she apologized. Over and over, she said, I should be stronger than this. I should be over by now. And it struck me how deeply we've been conditioned to feel shame for our struggles, when in fact they're the very things that sanctify us. The brutal Stoic truth is this. Your struggles are sacred. They are not evidence that you're weak or broken. They are proof that you're in the process of becoming someone you could never be otherwise. That anxiety you carry, it's teaching you empathy for people fighting invisible battles. That heaviness of depression, it's deepening your capacity to experience joy in ways effortless happiness never could. That loss that shattered your heart, it's stretching your ability to love in ways you didn't know were possible. Every person who has ever left a lasting mark on the world, teachers, artists, healers, leaders, shares a common thread. They struggled. They faced nights when quitting would have been easier. They questioned their worth, their strength, their intelligence. And yet, those struggles weren't their disqualifications. They became their credentials. You can't truly walk someone through their darkness if you've never faced your own. You can't comfort someone in grief if you've never felt its sting. You can't inspire resilience if you've never had to claw your way forward. Your challenges are giving you a depth of understanding no classroom could ever teach. And here's what makes them sacred. You get to decide their meaning. They can harden you, or they can make you wise. They can close your heart, or they can open it wider. They can convince you life is unfair, or they can remind you that suffering is the great equalizer, that everyone struggles, and that shared truth is what makes connection so powerful. So here's your practice. Take one struggle you're facing right now and rewrite it in a single sentence as a sacred assignment. Instead of I am suffering, write I am being trained. Instead of this is destroying me, write this is shaping me. That small shift transforms struggle into purpose. Your battles are not random. They are tailored for you, placed in your path because the universe believes you can handle them. Not without scars, not without tears, but with a strength that is born only through trial. And once you embrace the sacredness of your struggle, you are ready for the 6th Stoic truth, the courage it takes to begin again when the world expects you to stay the same. Truth number 6, the bravery it takes to begin again. There comes a time in life, Sometimes more than once. When you realize the life you've been living no longer fits the person you become, maybe the job that drains you even though it pays the bills. Maybe it's a relationship that has been dead for years, but fear of loneliness keeps you there. Or maybe it's a version of yourself that everyone else admires, yet inside you feel like you're wearing a costume. We call it many things: restlessness, dissatisfaction, burnout. But at its core, it's the soul whispering. It's time to begin again. Starting over at 25 feels like an adventure. At 35, it feels intimidating. At 50, it can feel impossible. But the Stoics remind us that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to step forward even when fear is loud. Seneca, who lost wealth, influence, and eventually his life, wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." His point wasn't that we need more years, but that we need to live more deeply in the years we already have. To start fresh, even late in the story, is still to honor life fully. Consider the woman who left behind a prestigious law career in her 50s to become a teacher. From the outside, it looked irrational. Why abandon security, respect, and a comfortable lifestyle for a beginner's salary and the unknown? But for her, the answer was clear. She had outgrown the life she built. The classroom awakened a passion she had buried for decades. Teaching children brought her back to the essence of who she was meant to be. What looked like loss from the outside was liberation on the inside. That's the sixth Stoic truth. Starting again is not quitting. It's evolving. It's refusing to stay trapped in a role that no longer matches your spirit. It's choosing growth over stagnation, authenticity over approval, possibility over predictability. And yes, beginning again is terrifying. It means risking misunderstanding, facing judgment, stepping into uncertainty. But here's the greater terror: reaching the end of your life and realizing you never had the courage to live the life you truly wanted. So here's your practice. Identify one area of your life that feels false, one place where you're performing instead of living. Ask yourself, if fear didn't control me, what new beginning would I choose? Then commit to one small step in that direction this week. A phone call, a conversation, signing up for a class. Every step plants a seed, and every seed has the power to grow into a new chapter. But here's the thing: beginning again is not just about changing circumstances. It's about redefining yourself. Because once you find the courage to start over, you must answer a deeper question. Start over as who? Will you build your new life according to other people's expectations? Or will you build it on the solid ground of your own values? That is a final Stoic truth. The freedom that comes when you live with integrity, when your outer life finally reflects your inner principles. And that is the kind of freedom no one can take away. Truth number 7. The freedom of living with integrity. Once you've found the courage to begin again, another question always rises. Begin again as who? Because starting over is not only about circumstances. It's about character. Too many of us build lives that look impressive to others but feel hollow when we're alone. We spend years climbing ladders, only to realize that we're leaning against the wrong wall. We work endlessly to win approval, while quietly losing ourselves. And the weight of that performance is exhausting. The Stoics believe that true strength isn't measured by wealth, titles, or reputation, but by whether we live in harmony with our principles. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. For him, integrity wasn't optional. It was the only path to freedom. Because when you live according to your values, no external loss can break you. You may lose jobs, relationships, or possessions, but you cannot lose yourself. I once knew a man who seemed to have everything: a successful career, a beautiful home, admiration from his peers. But late at night he confessed, I don't even like the person I've become. I'm living someone else's life. Within a year, he walked away from it all, not because he was running from responsibility, but because he finally chose responsibility for his own soul. He built a simpler life that reflected his values. And though outsiders judge him for giving up status, he found something far greater: peace. That is the 7th Stoic truth. Integrity is freedom. When your actions align with your values, you no longer fear being exposed because there's nothing to hide. You stop living for applause. You stop bending to fit molds you never belonged in. You begin to live with a quiet, power that cannot be taken away. And in a world obsessed with appearances, living with integrity is a radical act of courage. Here's your practice. Write down your 3 core values, the qualities that matter most to you. Maybe it's honesty, kindness, courage, or wisdom. Then, for 1 week, let those values guide every choice. Before you speak, ask, is this true? Before you act, ask, does this reflect who I want to be? Before you commit, ask, does this align with my principles, or am I chasing approval? These simple questions become a compass, steering you back to yourself whenever the world pulls you off course. The freedom of integrity is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up as the same person in private as you are in public. It's about choosing what is right, even when no one is watching. And the reward is profound. When you live with integrity, you no longer need to control outcomes, because you've already won the only victory that matters, being true to yourself. And so we arrive here, 7 Stoic truths, each one difficult, each one uncomfortable, but together they reveal the path to a life that is not just endured, but embraced. Your struggles are not proof you are broken. They are proof you are alive. And if you dare to let them teach you, they will lead you to freedom. The freedom of living with strength, depth, resilience, and above all, integrity. If these 7 Stoic truths stirred something inside you, don't let the feeling fade. Carry it forward. Share this message with someone who needs to be reminded of their own strength. Leave a comment so others know they're not alone in their battles. And if you want to keep walking this path of growth over comfort, subscribe and stay with us. We're building a community that chooses courage, resilience, and integrity. Every step you take to live these truths is a vow to yourself. I am not broken. I am becoming.